Hi everybody, this is Cindy Guentert-Baldo, and I am taking you with me today on an art journaling experiment in my Erin Condren. I've never done this in this kind of a in this planner before. I've done this in other places in my art journals and stuff, but because I want to create a beautiful, use this to like journal some memories, but I want to add some pizzazz to it, art journal style. I'm going to do some techniques in this that I usually do in my art journals. So these techniques could be used if you Bible journal. They can be used that way. They can be used in all sorts of ways. But, you know, this video may not see the light of day if it really sucks. Or it might. I might put it up as like a hot mess. This is what happens when you try to do too much in your Erin Condren life planner. I'm probably going to speed up through parts of this because I don't want this to be a forever long video, but I am going to talk through some of the process that I'm doing. Okay? So let's go. We're going to start by protecting my surface. So this is newsprint. I just get the Strathmore newsprint sheets. They're cheap, you know, super cheap. You can get them at Michael's or art supply stores or wherever. I'm going to tear a sheet of it off and use it underneath my planner to protect my desk. It's not going to protect it that well because I tore it badly, but whatever. And then when I'm working on a page, I'm actually going to, I'm going to cut this in half so that I have some to protect the pages underneath. Okay, so I have these half pieces. I'm going to set them underneath each page to protect the stuff underneath. Okay, so this is all set. Now, this is gesso. If you've never used gesso before, it's a medium that's used to prepare a surface for painting. Often when you buy canvases in the, like Michael's, they're pre-gessoed already, which means you can slap paint on them and that the surface is already kind of smooth and ready to take the paint. I'm using this so that I can add medium on top of this, this paper without it getting super screwed up. Plus it adds texture. I'm using Liquitex super heavy gesso. This stuff is like spackle. You know, some of the gessos are super liquidy, but this one's kind of creamy. I'm going to use this to paint over kind of the corners of each of these areas and over the diamonds around the months. Okay, so I'm going to kind of neutralize this whole spread, but leave the lines for journaling. You want to put this on kind of lightly and then spread it around because it can be really thick. So I'm just going to lay some of it on and then I'm going to be sloppy. I don't want this to be neat. I don't want this to be like pretty. I mean, I want this to be pretty, but not pretty in like a super neat and fancy kind of way. I want this to be pretty in like a sloppy boom boppy kind of way. So I'm going to slap some of this down. I'm going to cover the whole notes section up. I'm going to slap some of that down, and then I'm going to take the old credit card. You can see that this is one of the ones I use for art journaling because it's covered in paint. And I'm going to spread it around, kind of cover up the things I want to cover up. I'm not really sure if I want like full coverage. Think of like foundation, you know, you have like full coverage and sheer coverage or whatever. If you notice when I'm doing this, like it's not totally covering everything up, but it is covering up the majority of it, and that's kind of what I'm going for. So I am going to go and do this around the sides of this. Okay, so you can kind of see the lines through, but there's going to be more stuff put on top of this. I wasn't quite trying to go for like the most clean perfectness. If that was, I certainly wouldn't have used the credit card. I would have used a brush or something to spread it on more evenly. But you can see that the majority of that's been covered up, but there's still spots left ungessoed. So one thing I'm going to do is, you can see, it's hard to see on camera, but there's a lot of texture that's been left. And I have these Ranger texture tools, and I'm thinking I want to kind of to add a little bit of texture just to the top, and then the notes area, it's going to dry like this. Add some texture, and that should be cool. Okay, so I'm going to clean these tools up. I'm going to let this dry. When I come back, we will start adding some color to this page. One thing I will tell you before I go is that you may want to cover your spiral up if you're doing this in Erin Condren with washi tape. I didn't, because fuck it, you know, I'm just trying to experiment here, and because I'm not using this planner for anything except experimenting, that's pretty cool. You will discover that your page is soft and flappy. Be careful, because this is regular paper and you're covering it with heavy medium. So just be aware of that. That's why this is an experiment. Anyway, I'm gonna let this dry and I'm gonna come back. Okay, I've let this dry for a couple hours and the gesso is pretty dry. You can see maybe that you can still see the lines and the paper's kind of curling a bit from the heaviness, so we'll see how that goes. I grabbed a few of my gelatos. If you don't use these by Faber-Castell, they're kind of like waxy sort of crayon-y situations. You can use them wet or dry. I don't remember the colors I have. I've had these for a long time, but I grabbed this like turquoise color, this lime green color, and then the gold shimmery one. And I'm going to kind of add some color to the gesso. So I'm going to add some green. I'm just going to go in and add it in a few spots. I'm going to blend it with my finger. And now I've added blue and green all over, and I've added a little bit of gold to add some shimmer. Sorry, I didn't mean to kick my camera stand. I'm going to go in with my fingers. I'm going to blend it out a little bit. Okay, so I blended everything out and I'm kind of liking how it looks, but this blue and green and gold looks really pretty, but I want to add a little bit of pink to kind of warm it up a little bit. So I think I'm going to add in some Tim Holtz Distress inks. This one is Picked Raspberry and this one is Sponge Sugar. They're the little guys. And I'm going to use the round blending tool with the sponges. I love how this blends. It blends without many lines. So I'm going to kind of start with this pale pink. I'm going to dab it on. I'm going to give it a test really quick. See how it kind of, yeah, I like this. Okay, so I'm going to kind of go around like the edges. Just add a little. And you see, it doesn't, I forgot that it doesn't do that. So I'm going to kind of, so it kind of pulled up the gelato, which is not what I was intending. So I'm going to try a different attempt here. I'm going to add some of this darker pink, and I'm going to blend it in the lines areas. See, this is kind of cool because this adds like a flat space to write on, and it'll bleed through. But one of the things you can always do with that is add gesso to it later. So you just use the blender to blend in, give it like a soft kind of look. It will pick up the gesso. It's not going to like the gesso. So if you do something like this where you're using distress inks around gesso, just know that it won't like them very much. Yeah, I'm liking, though, kind of the soft effect that this is giving. The pink and the color kind of is done. I've got the texture from the gesso, and I've got the pink I'm going to add some doodles up and down the sides. I want to do kind of some flowery doodles. So this is a ultra fine permanent tool marker, and this works really good to doodle on top of things, I've really found. So I'm just going to start adding in some it's not liking. You can see that I started doodling, but the pen and my gelatos were not doing well together. So I am going to try and another tactic, and I'm gonna do another layer of gesso. This is Liquitex clear gesso, and this is a really good way to add some texture and to seal down everything. So it'll make it a little easier to write on top of. And I'm going to do this just on the edges where I want to doodle. If you're going to use any kind of gesso, clear or otherwise, just get a shitty, crappy brush, because it's going to ruin it. So I am just adding this clear gesso down the edges because that's where I'm going to doodle. So I want to just add it where I'm planning on doodling so that it will seal in the gelatos, make it easier for me to write. Now this doesn't leave a smooth surface. This particular brand of clear gesso, this Liquitex, leaves a kind of a gritty surface, which in and of itself is super cool. It makes like a scribbly kind of sketchy texture, and I really like that. Another thing you need to be careful about is that when you put gesso on top, like liquid anything on top of gelatos, you are going to move them around. So see how I'm dabbing instead of dragging? It's going to leave more texture, but it's also going to kind of preserve the blending. To be fair, I don't have any like specific pattern that I'm going with here with this color. It's just adding the color, but it will smear your gelatos around. So if you want to maintain something, you could use a spray instead of gesso. But if you want this texture, that's fine. Just remember that it will move the color around. I'm gonna let that dry. This probably could use a good overnight drying, so I am gonna, sometimes I'm gonna try and do some fast mixed media where I'm doing a whole bunch at once, but this I'm gonna really just take some time since it's the first time I've done this in this Erin Condren planner. So we'll see what happens. I'm gonna let this dry overnight and then I'm gonna doodle on it tomorrow. Okay, so I've let the clear gesso dry overnight on top of the gelatos, and now it's got a nice rough texture. So I am going to go back to my tool marker and I want to see, let's see, does the doodling work a little better? You know, I think I got a shitty marker. Let me grab another one. Maybe that was my problem. This one's great. Oh yeah, there we go. And it, because of this, like this rough surface, it sketches really roughly. I'm really not liking how that's going. Let's go to an old favorite Sharpie. There we go. Like, I'm okay with the scribbly, you know, this is, sometimes I've done this before, and this is one of the beautiful things with mixed media, is that you don't always know how it's going to work out. This is a Sharpie pen, and this is not water fast, so I am not going to add any more. Just doodling some flowers. I'm just trying to add some scribbly kinds of doodles onto here. Let me see. the irony of this whole thing is that I have worked on top of this situation with markers on a number of times, and you can never tell. You can never freaking tell what you are going to be able to work with. Okay, I'm gonna go with my Pitt artist pen. This is what I wanted. So I'm just gonna sketch in some like loose flowers. They're not gonna be fancy. They're just gonna be the suggestion of nature. So I'm gonna speed this up. Okay, so I've doodled some flowers and plants on here, and I'm kind of liking this setup. Now I need to add the days. I'm going to use this brush pen number 22 from, I believe it's Pilot. I could be wrong about that though. I mean, not Pilot. Guentert-Baldo Zig, I think this is. I'll double check it though, I can't remember for sure, but I'll have it in the comments, in the description below. And I love how sketchy this looks, so I'm gonna just loosely kind of okay, notice that I don't do it exactly the same on each day. I kind of was just kind of derping around. What did I do with my cap? Oh, kind of, you know, slopping around. Just trying to make it look messy and scribbly, which has been this whole situation. And now I really want to add a little bit along the top and the bottom. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to... This stamp is this stamp that I'm holding here is a stamp I carved out of a piece of eraser. And if you would like a tutorial on how to carve stamps, I'm not very good at it, but I'm somewhat good at it. Just leave a note in the comments below, and I'll try to make a tutorial about it at some point. I'm going to use this distress ink. It's called Frayed Burlap by Tim Holtz. And I'm gonna test it out here. Yeah. So it's not black. It's like a kind of khaki, kind of brown. And I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm trying to just add some interest to it. And then I'm just gonna take this baby wipe and I'm gonna dab right over the top of it just to pick up some of the extra. And I think this, let me see, let me wipe off some of that frayed burlap. Is there anything I want to add? You know what I do kind of want to add? I think I need a little bit of gold. I added that gold in the beginning with the gold gelatos, but I'm going to do, this is a Wink of Stella brush by Zig, Guentert-Baldo Zig, and it's a brush of gold, and I'm just going to use this to add in some gold accents. I think this is ready for me to journal in. So this has been a total experiment. I did not do this before. I did not know what I was doing when I went into this. I just used some of the mixed media techniques. Like the backs of these Erin Condren pages are kind of, you can see kind of some of the full through, but if I wanted to use the next page, I could gesso it. Another thing I could do is, I've got some ideas for how to continue using this as a journal, but this is my kind of sketchy area to write, fill in this week that's coming up next week. I'm gonna be able to do some journaling here, I think, and to give you of an idea of what that could look like when I do start journaling, I know I'm going to the dentist, so I'm going to just put went to the dentist and had nitrous oxide. To start, you can start to see what it'll look when it's filled in with journaling, because I'm not going to show this on Instagram when it's filled with journaling. It's personal. But I just thought you should see kind of how we will do more art journaling in the Erin Condren sometime soon. If you like this, please let me know. If you don't like this, if you think this is a waste of time on my channel, please let me know. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.